Good afternoon and welcome to the latest in our series of A Conversation With in the Business Success Society. And this week we are talking to Paul Rolfe of Paul Rolfe Estates and Lettings. So, Paul, welcome to the Business Success Society.
Thank you, Kat. Thanks for the invitation. It's been great.
We've known each other for many years.
Maybe 50.
Oh, yes, it must be about that. I think you were just starting out. So would you like to just tell us a little bit about your business and how you got started?
Yes. My name is Paul Rolfe, and I started an estate agency about 15 years ago. Having moved from England to Scotland, took a year out, did a year at university, and then was scratching my head about going back into IT, thinking that wasn't for me anymore, midlife crisis. And I saw this advert for a franchise system for estate agents, because at that time it was almost impossible to get a job as an estate agent. They basically were only hire within the industry if you had experience. There was a merry-go-round of people would leave one company, join another, and they would hire someone else from another company, and so on. So to become an estate agent meant really joining a franchise system, which we paid into to learn how to be an estate agent. I went in with 2 feet first. Not only did I learn to be an estate agent, I also bought a franchise as well. And in fact, actually put a third foot in the pond straight away by buying 2. So it was a bit crazy. We bought one in North Glasgow and one in Bowness near Linlithgow and Falkirk.
One in Port Glasgow, did you say?
We bought one in Bishopbriggs in Glasgow as well.
Oh, right. Oh, goodness. Right. Okay. I thought you said Port Glasgow. I thought that's a long way away.
No, Bishopbriggs.
Bishopbriggs, right. So, what was that experience like in terms of buying into a franchise then? Because I'm not sure how much people know about franchises and being a franchisee.
Well, franchising is a system whereby you buy into a proven system that works, a company that's going to support you, train you, give you all the tools you need and all the moral support as well, and the training. And we joined a company called Remax, which has shrunk quite a bit in the last perhaps 10 years. But when we were joining, they were booming and growing. Remax actually is an international franchise, and at the time were the biggest company in real estate in the world. Not anymore, but still at the time it was a good name to join. In essence, we got some training courses and we got help and advice how to run our business. And that was very invaluable at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing. I mean, there's a reasonably high upfront cost often for buying into a franchise, and also there can be ongoing fees and annual fees or monthly fees, things like that.
We had ongoing monthly fees, which racked up quite a lot over the years as the franchise decided to do more advertising on TV and radio. Cost was spread amongst the franchisees, and there was about perhaps 80 or so at the time. So it wasn't so bad, but it was still a cost we had no control over. It did give you a lot of exposure though, which was really good, and a brand name. And at the time, brand names are very, very popular. So it was a good experience overall. Looking back 15 years later, I think of it as the most expensive training course in the world ever, because I spent a lot of money with the franchise, but I learned an awful lot, and I certainly couldn't be where I am now without that experience.
Yeah, I suppose that's the upside of it, is that you do get, you kind of hit the ground running a little bit better rather than starting up on your own, I guess, as well, don't you?
Yes, we do. In the small town where we started in Bowness, there were another 4 other agents, and literally within about 6-7 weeks, we were selling more properties than all the other agents, or any other agent. So we very quickly became the market leader in our little town, and that's been the same ever since.
So we'll come on to setting up your own business and your own ethos, because there's obviously a lot to that. But what is it, do you think, that set the Remax back then, when you first set up? What is it that set Remax apart from the other estate agents that helped you? I mean, I know it was a lot to do with you and your hard work and your values, but
Yes.
But was there something intrinsic in the system that you think that helped?
There are a couple of things. It was a personalised experience. As the agent, you actually worked with your client. You did everything from your client, from meeting them in the first place, taking the photographs, to arranging viewings, doing the viewings, negotiating the sale, and seeing it through to the end, which is different from a corporate sort of agent where you people are just cogs in wheels of motion. So we gave people a really hands-on personal experience, and they always knew who to phone if they had any issues and problems. So that was very good for the customers. The other thing which stood out from the rest of the agents out there was we would do all the viewings. Many people do their own viewings, and it always seemed strange to me that you'd pay somebody £1,000 or maybe £2,000 or £3,000 and actually sell the house yourself. That just seemed completely crazy. People have done that for years, and people still do it without thinking about it. But I think that's one of the major differences we had, is we provided a much better level of service.
So you did 5 years with that, and you learned a lot, and you built up, you know, a business and a clientele and all the rest of it. So what was it that made you decide to kind of go out on your own?
I think it was a number of things. There are a number of factors about in the time. Like at the time right now, we're in a bad situation in the world. We were in a recession when our 5-year franchise came to an end. To renew the franchise was going to cost a fair amount of money, which we had.
Wow, right, yeah.
They were asking for, well, I won't say, but a very high amount of money. They wanted to continue, and we just felt that was not worthwhile. For about a quarter of that money, I was able to set up my own office with my own logo, advertising, a website, and all the things I needed to start the business in my own name, which is what I did. I actually started it with my brother-in-law, Martin. We've always been not just a sole trader. We were a partnership, and we started up a limited company called Paul Rolfe Estates. So it was the timing, it was the cost, and also it had the experience. And I didn't really feel I needed to keep paying the franchise company all the money for what I was doing, when really I was doing most of the work.
Yes, indeed. And you'd built up a reputation, I guess, as well.
Yes, in the local town, every board that said for sale had my name on it as well. So people knew my name. And that
was the Remax way, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was you know, each individual franchisee, you know, did have their names on the board.
We even had our photograph as me.
Oh yeah, you did in your business cards as well, didn't you?
Right.
It was very American, wasn't it?
It was very American, and that was maybe too American for some people, but it certainly got us known. And again, when I started in my own name, my name was already out there, so it was kind of a good thing in hindsight.
And at the time, because we met through the dreaded BNI, and I always say I don't diss BNI. I learned a lot from BNI, Business Network International. For anybody who's not heard of it, it's still on the go. It's a business networking organization which requires you to attend weekly meetings. Try saying that with your teeth in. And that's where I met you originally, was through BNI, wasn't it? I think you were in West Lothian chapter, were you?
Actually, one in Corstorphine in Edinburgh.
Right.
I wasn't allowed to go to the one in Falkirk for some reason. We started a new chapter in Edinburgh and Corstorphine called TGI.
Oh, so you're in TGI, that's right. Yeah. So I was in Stirling originally until it folded. And there's been various attempts to resurrect it, and it still stubbornly refuses to be resurrected. And I went to Edinburgh. I was in Dunedin for years. So I think that was possibly where I was. But then when I left BNI, I joined the Falkirk one, and then you came and joined it as well, didn't you?
My biggest
after me.
My biggest success in BNI was I actually named the chapter TGI.
Was that your name? Well, there you go.
My suggestion. That's my best memory of it, really.
However, I think there is definitely something about the people you meet through BNI. It's a very enduring relationship, I feel.
Yes.
You know, people I've met through BNI, I haven't had them for a while, but I mean, BNI is kind of the gift that keeps on giving. People remember you.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a lady I met at the first club I joined, and she had some advertising system she was selling with a partner, and 2 or 3 years later, she actually joined my business as an estate agent. She left a few years later. We've been friends ever since. So yeah, a lot of good things come out of it.
So you've set up your own business now in your own name, and which bits did you bring from Remax, and what did you add to it in terms of your system? Because you're very much, we're very much on the same page on this, and you're very much a process and a system sort of guy.
Well, they brought the processes of how to do things, which was very important, because any successful business needs a process. How we put a property on the market, we had like a simple sheet of paper. There was probably 20 things you had to do, and generally in that order, the 20 things going down the page, and you tick off what you'd done. You'd organise the surveyor to do the valuation report, you'd organise the photographs, etc., to the point of getting approval from the client to put the house up for sale and press the button that made it go live on the internet. So processes are very, very important. People often think it's all in their head, but as you grow, when you want somebody else to come into the job and take over that job, if there's a process written out, it's very much a case of, here's the process. It's easy to understand, ask questions, but there's your checklist of what you need to do. Yeah. So processing was one of the things. Marketing was the other key factor. The Remax franchise was heavily marketed, and there's certain techniques which we followed on with. I think reputation, though, was a massive thing as well, to be honest. We'd already built up, and without that we would have struggled. So that kind of was the gift that we had and brought forward. But there were just really, we followed the same system we'd learned before, essentially, which was proven to be a successful way of doing it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you probably, it's your own individual style as well.
Yes, individual style, and also I always have this thing. I think you've talked about recently, called marginal gains. Try to be the very best at every aspect. We try to do better photographs than everybody else, write a better description of the property than everybody else, try to be available more time than everybody else to do the viewings. If you add up all these little things together, you get many gains, and overall it proves a very successful formula. It's hard work, but that's
yes.
People who think there's an easy way in business to be successful are just living in dreamland.
So in terms of when somebody comes to you and says they want to sell their house, I mean, we've talked about process, but one of the other things is actually understanding, all about that person and that house, and helping them to get that house ready for sale, for example. So how do you help with that side of things?
Well, first thing to say is the meeting we have when someone says, I want to sell my house, or I want to they always say, what's it worth? What's the valuation? That's all they want to know, the number. They don't know anything else, really. They just want to know because that's all they're thinking about, is what money they will get. Our process is that we go along for a meeting, and our meeting can typically take 1.5 hours, whereas most agents may be in and out in maybe 20 or 30 minutes. And that's because first thing, you sit down and understand what the person wants, to really listen, understand what it means for them to move, why they want to move, what are their constraints, what can they do, what they cannot do beforehand. It's about understanding how far they're prepared to go to increase the value of their house. Most houses have a value on the day you walk in the front door, but by the time we've got ready for sale, the value typically goes up a little bit. And that's because of the advice we give people of how to get the house prepared. And that could be advice like painting, but it can be simple things as well. And also it can be money saving, not to do things. People sometimes say, I'm going to build a conservatory first. And I say, don't do that. As one simple example. That's not going to add value, but changing your kitchen and bathroom will, for example.
So, I'm just reading a comment from someone from Shona saying, I've twice sold houses with estate agents who showed the house. I much prefer that approach. houses are so personal. I think it's difficult to show people around your own home. So, you want to comment on that?
Yes, I think that's absolutely right, Shona, because when you're buying a house, you're buying actually, as a buyer, from their perspective, you're buying the bricks and mortar, so to speak. You're not buying the person who lives in the house. If you view a house and meet the owner, you are going to, at some level, make some kind of judgment about that person that lives there. It might not affect your judgment to buy the house, but it might also, in some cases, affect the judgment. There's no need for that chemistry. The chemistry is about what the buyer wants and the property. And if an agent shows the house, the agent can be impartial, can spend more time, can answer questions in a more open manner. If you're asking the seller of the house, they're not always going to say everything you want to hear. The seller is also going to want to know you're going to buy the house, or start asking the buyer lots of questions. When you're moving, do you want the house? Which is the wrong thing to say. So we think a professional agent doing a viewing is far better and more relaxing for the buyers. Buyers come to me and say, that was great, thank you very much for showing me around. Far better than the last house I went to when I met the people who live there.
Yes. And what do you do with the people? Do they go out for a walk while you're showing it, or are they sort of in a room somewhere?
No, in general, they go out of the house. I have done it in a room somewhere sometimes. If people are very elderly or infirm, of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's a baby in the house, needs to go to bed, which we try to avoid that situation as well. But in general, the people living there leave, go out for a walk, go to out for tea in the car or something like that. So generally, we have an empty house. And
so I have to start. We have to bring in the C word, COVID.
yes.
So at the moment, nothing happening. Anything happening at all in the housing market in Scotland? Well, you can talk about England as well, because I know you've just I've just been on your page and you've been talking about opening up in England. So England bring us up to date in COVID land.
England opened up agencies 2 days ago, and it was all a bit of a surprise. Literally, the network of estate agents that are all communicating via Facebook all went crazy 2 nights ago, and we'd be open in the morning. I think some have opened, some have not opened, but I think the government is quite keen to get that sector of the business world going again, because there are something like 82 million pounds worth of property tax they want to collect.
Yeah, right.
So an awful lot of money involved in property. For us, we found in the first week a very quick reduction in the number of inquiries and phone calls. We did actually sell some houses in the period of shutdown. Houses were already on the market, and we had people viewing them over the internet through virtual tours that we'd already arranged. And on a couple of occasions, the owner did a walk around, like a WhatsApp or a Skype type call to someone looking at the property. And we have sold, I don't know, half a dozen or so houses, which is quite impressive, including one at a very expensive house as well, which is the very top of the price range, which is surprising. The problem is, though, that surveyors are not able to work. They're not able to go to your house. So in Scotland, you are aware you need a surveyor to do a home report before the house can go on the market. So we are kind of stuck until surveyors start working again. And also we get the green light, of course, from the government that we can do this. I anticipate in the next 2 to 3 weeks we could be told, but...
I think apparently Nicola Sturgeon at lunchtime has started softening her approach a little bit, saying we need to start thinking about a roadmap, which is good, but hopefully maybe slightly more measured and more. I don't want to be political about this. Slightly, just so everybody understands what's going on. Let's just put it that way.
I'm just going to say one more thing about it. There's a lot of fear, of course, by people about the value of their house. My own view is house prices will stay about the same because there's a high demand. I can't see them going up in value like was predicted in January, but I also don't see them dropping because there's a very high demand. People want to move. And people do still have this fear about the price dropping, but if the price of your own house drops, one you're going to buy is also probably going to drop in price as well. There can be some geographical differences, but in general, in the same area, all houses will drop or increase at the same level.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, so if you're trying to move up or move down, the margins will move. Yeah, yeah, with you.
It's broadly not going to affect you if it goes up or down. If it goes up, you pay more for the next one. So
yes, yes. I suppose maybe it might drop a little bit. The whole market might drop a little bit, which might help the first-time buyers, I guess, get on the market. And in terms of houses, I think you mentioned this to me a couple of weeks ago when we had a chat, that there's suddenly a big demand for houses with gardens and houses that have got an extra room that they can put an office in.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's people that want more space now and they're thinking more about their gardens. There's also people that are going, hey, I've got this big 4-bedroom house. There's only 2 people. We're rattling around in this thing and it's just too big and now we'll want to downsize. So I think the market will be quite active. Downsizers, upsizers. Of course, unfortunately, there's people in bad situations because of COVID, because of health, because of relationships as well. I'm afraid it's going to affect everybody, and all kinds of manner of things will come out of the woodwork.
Yeah. I mean, somebody's just commenting, won't prices come down as people who have lost their jobs lose their homes? So do you anticipate a big spike in mortgage defaulting and repossession?
No, to be honest, because there is money to borrow. The number of loans has gone down in the last couple of months because people aren't actually applying, but they will go back up. The interest rates are actually at an all-time low. Yeah. So I think people will be able to move. Unfortunately, if you lost your job, it's a big worry, yes, but don't panic. Your house will sell at the going price at the moment. My advice, of course, could change because I can't see into the future like everybody else.
No.
But even if we have a recession, the recession won't be like the last one we had, which was a financial recession.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people saying that don't confuse this situation with a financial crash because it is completely different. Yeah.
And I think this time are really much more in tune with the people of the country, wanting to support people. I've heard rumours of maybe mortgage holidays for up to a year. I mean, I'm not sure that's true, but if you lost your job, maybe you can get a mortgage holiday for longer than the 3 or 4 months they were talking about. I think people need to stay calm and review their situation. By all means, talk to a financial advisor, talk to an estate agent about what their house is worth so they can make some plans. Because if you're going to move house, you need 2 bits of information. Can I get a mortgage and what's my house worth?
Indeed. So just very quickly, also do letting. What's that market? That's presumably all stopped as well?
It's stopped, but we have had to deal with the maintenance. So we are still the managing agent for many properties, for several hundred properties. So if the toilet gets blocked, then we would have to call out a plumber. That stuff is all ongoing. In terms of people wanting to rent places, there's always a high demand in Scotland. I think we're changing society to a more mobile society where people do want to rent because they might be somewhere for a year, 2 years, and then want to move again somewhere else. Second down route to the home is not quite to the panacea everyone used to think of it as. So
no, I think when they get to the stage of wanting to be in a place to for a catchment area for a school or something like that, but other than that. Yes, and that still holds.
Around a lot, yes.
Yes, and that's one of the things I like about where I am. It's always going to be in demand, but from people with kids. That's why I moved here. So there will always be people. So the last thing you put, this is how we'll finish up. You said business should be fun as well as serious.
Yes.
So you're not.
Being positive, having a fun outlook on life is just my personal demeanour. That's who I am. That's how I am. Yeah. I've done all kinds of crazy things with my staff and with customers. I had one lady and her husband, and I taught the lady how to tango in their lounge on the valuation appointment. And we still got the house to sell, and we sold it.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it's a bit like me and my llamas, which quite a lot of people don't really quite understand the whole llama thing, but it's just a bit of fun.
Yes.
Friday, we get to a Friday, we've got through another week. and out come the llamas. So yeah, it's just I'm a big believer in having a little bit of fun, and it doesn't mean that you're any less professional at what you do. It just means you've got a side to you which is I like to think of it as approachable as well. You know, that people. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I went onto his page, and I know him, and I see him through a Zoom call, and he's a really, really he knows his stuff absolutely, but he's very relaxed, he's very chilled, and then there's this picture which looks like a sort of, you know, man in a suit and everything. I was like, that doesn't even look like you. And he said, I really like that photograph. I'm going, but it's not you. Because
Enjoy it.
he's trying to sell his services, his financial services, on being approachable. I said, that photograph's not doing it. He went, oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. It's that kind of...
Why do it? Really, if you've got a choice, if you have a choice, people don't always. But if you can't enjoy it, it's really hard, and it's very bad for your health in the long run.
Exactly. I mean, if you're going to be in business for yourself, and there is that thing as well, if you're not enjoying it, then all you've got is a very expensive job.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's no fun for anybody. Does anybody else have any comments or questions for Paul before we draw this to a close? I'll just give them a couple of seconds, because it takes a minute or two for people to hear and then type their response, and then for me to read it. So, but it has been an absolute pleasure. And as ever in these things, we could probably go on chatting for about another hour, because it's just the way of these things.
They might fall asleep though, I think, Kat.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't see any comments coming through. Usually somebody at least types something to say, yeah, we're still awake, but I'm not even getting that.
Okay.
I'm sure you haven't put people to sleep. I'm sure you haven't. So I will say thank you very much, Paul. I will give you the recording of this. Use it in whatever manner you wish. Thank you very much to everybody who watched live. If you're watching later, then again, if you put some comments in, then I'm sure Paul or I will get back to you if you've got any questions. So thank you very much, Paul, and enjoy the rest of your day.